Hey guys, welcome to the Pig Daily, episode number 18. What If Wednesdays. This is a second What If Wednesdays. Sorry about the intro there for you guys who are watching live on stream. Bit of a mic issue. It's all good now. Today we've got Puck versus TLO, two amazing players. Going to play another ZVP. I do apologize to any Terran players out there. You'd be like, oh man, two What If Wednesdays in a row with no Terrans. I'm talking to a few cool players, Massa, Kelazur, Bunny, for just due to scheduling and a few other things, they weren't able to come today. But next week, I absolutely promise I'll try my hardest to get a Terran in. Even if we end up with something like TVT, there's going to be a Terran involved in some way or another. For anyone who's not familiar with What If Wednesdays, basically today is all about, we get the players to play a show match. We get two fantastic players. They're both just going to hop into game. And it's going to be a single map, and the loser of the map is just going to analyze after the game. They're going to hop on the call. I'm going to say, dude, what the hell did you do wrong that game? They're going to find a key decision, maybe where they react wrong to some scouting information, something where they mess up, they screw the pooch. And they're going to then recover the game from just before that mistake. And if the games are quite short, we might get to do that twice, 2 recovers. And at the end, we're all going to hop on the call. We're going to discuss with both sides what the mistakes were, what players could do better, what the crucial points were, where the players should have played differently. And hopefully this will give you guys an insight into how pro gamers understand the game, how they practice together. And just generally, I think it'll be a good experience to kind of see these people who are so advanced into the game identify their own mistakes and have a chance to try and immediately change up the way they play and adjust from game to game. So I don't want to waste too much time blubbering and blathering at the start of this game. I just want to dive straight into game. So I'm just going to ask the players. All right, guys. Ready. We want to dive straight in, talk about it. We can save our analysis and blathering for the end once we have the players on the call. They both saying ready. So fantastic. We'll be diving into game in just a moment. I'm getting so good at maintaining eye contact with the camera and kind of like presenting that I'm not looking at my obs the whole time, which is why I'm not realizing when my mic isn't working. But hey, it's all good. We got there eventually. We just redid our intro and it's all happy. So let's dive here on into game. And it is ZVP on King Sejong Station. I didn't really want to do ZVP 2 weeks in a row, but I figured why not? So it's going to be a very analytical style cast as well, guys. If I get excited at a point, that's fine. We can kind of commentate it a little bit. We can get a bit excited. But the aim is just to be very analytical. So spawning up here in the top left, we have Puck. And let's just put my hotkeys on so I can do more badass intros. And Puck's actually going to be going for a pylon walling off the ramp, so we can wall that with just a pylon and a gateway. Might even use a second pylon and the cyber core to already start the wall at the natural. That's quite interesting. Or you could just do it that way, gate and then core. Cool. On the other hand, down here in the bottom right hand side, we have, it is the infamous, everyone's favorite Wonderwunsch. It is TLO. And we're just going to make sure the sounds are at a decent level as well very quickly. There we go. Add some of that epic in-game music in. All right. So from TLO, we've got a hatch, gas, and a spawning pool is about to go down as well. That's actually a very early spawning pool, a 16 pool. That's interesting. Most players go 17 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool. So just one supply earlier is TLO going for this, and this is going to give him a faster Zergling speed, slightly faster queens, slightly faster Zerglings. It's going to give him the ability to shut down any adept pressure much easier. On the other hand, Puck is now coming in for his scout. He's going to see this. He's going to say, okay, this is a pretty fast gas timing, pretty fast pool timing. The only thing Puck's worrying about at this point is if TLO is going to go for a third hatchery before he builds his queens. So Puck might be kind of keeping an eye out for that, and he may head with his probe down to block that third base. Back at home, on Puck's side of things, we've got a cyber core on the way. So he's basically just gone the very standard opening of gate, and actually, ooh, not so standard. So he's actually gone cyber core, pretty early. Oh, no, this is very standard. So it was just a gate, gas, nexus, into core, into the second gas, into second pylon. Very standard opening. This is what you'd see almost every game out of Protoss in PvT and PvZ. And we're going to see that chrono boost going right down on that cyber core and an adept starting immediately. Very typical, of course. even if the probe gets shoved back, and the probe is actually being very clever here, knowing that he's still got about 15 seconds before Zerglings are going to be over here. He knows he can deny this hatchery for a few more seconds and just wants to keep an eye on everything. But as those Zerglings arrive, oh, Puck's actually going to stay here, trying to really be annoying. But TLO is going to shut this down. I think his Zergling's going to get on top of that. And it does spot the third base, though. Of course, Puck's going to be coming across with this Adept. And he's going to want to take a glance around with it, but he knows that about 3 minutes 30 Zergling speed will be finishing. If we take a look at the spawning pool, we see that's almost done. So usually, he'll just check the third's actually down, double check that's not being cancelled, maybe take a look in the natural. But usually the player will then cancel it from there. He's actually staying here for a very long time. Very risky. Zergling speed's done. TLO could chase this down very easily right now. And it looks like Puck is going to lose this Adept. Very nice surround by Dr. Dario. 2 more gateways coming down behind this for Puck. Of course, he went for the very fast Twilight Council, and we've got the Glaives Adept attack speed on the way, and now Robotics going down. Alright, this is such a popular build right now. Puck, I think, was one of the players who was kind of doing this sort of style on his own, well before Neeb popularized it, but recently in the foreign scene, a lot of Protoss players have been picking this up and really starting to do this. You go for the Glaives, you go for 3-gate Adept pressure with a Warp Prism following it up, so you can actually bounce around with your Adepts in multiple locations really well. And you go for a 3rd Nexus as you kind of push out with those Adepts. One of the interesting things about Puck is if you look at his economic timings, when his Nexus goes down, in almost every matchup, it's never the absolute fastest. He's usually a player who's much more focused on getting his aggression done than building his economy, but at the same time, because he puts so much pressure onto his opponents, he ends up in a very decent position. And his Nexus does actually go down at a very decent time. Meanwhile, TLO's gone a Baneling Nest, he's gone a second gas, he's got +1 melee on the way, as well as a Spine Crawler in between his natural and third. He's continuing to drone up. We see the worker count's almost dead even right now. And Puck already moving out on this map. That Warp Prism will be popping soon. Glaives is almost done. Interestingly enough, moving out with only 4 Adepts. Just focusing on his economy right now. Adding the gases in his natural expansion. And what do we have for TLO? 7 Banelings on the way. He really wants to shut down this pressure as efficiently as possible. I was actually talking to TLO just before we started, and I was asking him, I was saying, if Protoss opens up with this exact sort of opening, I was saying, if they go for extra gateways and just keep warping in Adepts, do you think you need Roaches? And TLO was saying, I don't think you ever need Roaches. He said, I feel like Roaches just kind of put you a little bit behind in certain circumstances. Like, he said, yeah, they can be good, but because they're so immobile, it's very hard to both get enough Roaches to stop the aggression and not fall behind at the same time. So interesting to see TLO here sticking true to just the Ling Bane defense, and Puck here actually adapting very well, choosing only to stick with his initial 4 Adepts, committing so little to this, already having 2 sentries building up energy back home, starting Immortal production, starting Blink, continuing to build this probe count, and we still see Puck only down about 2 or 3 workers right now, and that's, you know, a pretty even, pretty comfortable position for him. TLO here, starting to get his gas count up, very good. Dirty Adept Warp coming in, just going to tear off 1 drone kill there, and a couple Zerglings, but doesn't lose an Adept for that, so just absolutely free damage. The lair now finishing up for TLO. Not a very fast lair. I'm very curious. Where is TLO going to take it from here? Is he going to try and squeeze a Spire in? Or is he just going to go for the Hydras and Lurkers? There we go. He's going to go for both options. So TLO is saying here, look, yeah, I still want to go Hydras. I still want to go Lurkers. He's actually got double upgrades on the way. +2 melee and +1 range. And he's going for the Spire as well, though. This is really smart against someone like Puck. Puck, he knows, has opened up with Warp Prism. He knows he's skipped the Stargate. And this is something Puck just loves to do. Also, the Overlord has kind of confirmed that. He just had an Overlord in the base. He still hasn't seen any Stargates. He knows that if the game is just very back and forth, very even, if he can squeeze out a round of about 8 Mutalisks, it's going to be very difficult for Puck to handle. At this point, though, is either player ahead? Not really. The only way I would say that TLO is behind or Puck is ahead, I mean, we look at the supply, that's one indicator. But the only reason I would say that is simply because TLO did build a lot of defense, and Puck actually did not commit a lot to his aggression. It's just been that single Warp Prism, those 4 Adepts. He's only lost 2 of them so far. He's even picking off Creep Tumors here. Oh, that's really cute. Little moves like that are just beautiful. Very well done. And he's already building up his army quite strong. However, Bane Speed is on the way. We've got Hydra range on the way, melee, Yeah, there's actually going to be a really strong +2 melee, +1 range timing where Hydraling Bane has an opportunity to do a lot of damage. And, oh, if he can kill that Warp Prism, that would be massive. This Observer sees everything, though. Puck's he sees the Banelings, he sees the Hydras. He's already got a Stalker-focused army, and now with 5 sentries, that's actually going to be a good amount of force fields, which is exactly what you need against this sort of composition. Corruptor's actually on the way. 2 Corruptors. I'm guessing that's just to hunt down the Warp Prism. An interesting decision by TLO. Always doing his own thing. Never kind of just bowing to crowd pressure. However, TLO does not have gas on his 4th yet. He's still very mineral focused right now. And that gives me quite a few worries about his transition. You know, he's not going to be able to afford a round of Mutas off that Spire. He's not going to be able to afford a whole lot of Lurkers, nor does he even have a Lurker down on the way. TLO is really stuck on this sort of mid-tier composition, and they're both kind of passing in the night a little bit here. The Zerglings are going to come in. They're going to get a cancel on that 4th. That's a really nice pickup for TLO. Remember, +2 melee is almost finished on those Zerglings. But these Hydras are so exposed, man. They're going to get wrecked if they go up there. Oh, that's a massive mistake. Oh, no. That's so expensive. He's going to lose every single Hydra. Doesn't kill a single Protoss unit. And that's massive. He's trying to attack here more. TLO's trying to come in from multiple angles, but I don't know if this is going to work. I think Puck just has a lot of army right now. You know, Puck's not the kind of guy to rush up his tech tree incredibly fast. So this sort of timing, when Puck's only done light pressure and otherwise just built his economy uninterruptedly, I think this is a really good position for Puck. I mean, he's just got so much army right now. He's up in army supply, he's got all the force fields, and we don't have any of those super efficient power units, the Lurkers, or anything like that. There's no Ravagers to break force fields either. So this is actually really tough for TLO. He's going to send some Zerglings out. He needs to do that. He needs to put the pressure on behind. There we go, yeah. If he can counterattack the 4th base and force Puck into the open, if he forces Puck to overcommit, his army suddenly has a chance. These Zerglings are going to start destroying that 4th base, but this army of Puck is still so scary at the same time. And Puck is just going to start pushing in here, man. Hydra's trying to flank around. They're trying to come from all sides. The Hydra's on the right already engaging a little bit too early. He's going to need to pull drones for this. The 4th base actually holds with the pylon cannon. He loses a lot of Zerglings trying to break in there. Force fields coming down here. Zerglings wrapping around from behind. The expensive units getting trapped at the front. The Immortals and Sentries starting to go down, but they all managed to escape so far. And it looks like Puck is just taking the better end of the trade. He is almost out of force fields, but the Stalkers blinking on the Hydras at the south end of the concave. Those Immortals microing back individually. There's still 5 Immortals standing in this army. Their barriers are going to start coming off cooldown soon, and if that happens, there's just no way for TLO to do this. But he has to fight right now. Puck is on top of this base. He's going to snipe down TLO's 4th. If TLO loses that, it's game over. He definitely cannot fight Protoss with a weaker composition and down 1 base. And it looks like Puck is just going to force TLO out of this game. I think TLO may be hanging out on low tech just a little bit too long. TLO might actually pinpoint that moment with those Hydras up there as the key moment. Definitely probably should have kept his units alive a little bit better so that he could have stopped Puck ever pushing down the ramp. If he could have just had his Hydras set up in a concave down there, it would have been harder for Puck to push in maybe. Likewise, if his Zerglings were counterattacking a bit faster, I can imagine this going a lot better for TLO. This is the sort of position you want, coming in with this beautiful huge concave from both sides. He's starting to get Lurkers out now, but actually unsieging from this position, I think he's afraid of Puck pouncing on one side of his army, and TLO is trying to take down the other base. He's saying, look, we can just defend here, but Puck sees everything. This Observer, this is something we actually saw in the last daily, was Zerg players not building an Overseer to clear out that Observer, and that's something we've got to point out. We've got to say, you realize Puck's been seeing everything the entire time, right? You know, TLO is going to come down the ramp. He does have a couple Lurkers there, but the concave for Puck is massive. The Lurkers just aren't doing that much splash damage, and with an Observer overhead, the Immortals, the Stalkers can focus everything down, and TLO is forced to tap on out. Alright, GG's. I'm just loving reading the comments from before when my mic was screwed up. We're just going to give TLO a call. We're going to get him on and have a chat about that game. Hey, GG, mate. Oh, your mic sounds like a chipmunk. Yeah, it just sounds like alien chipmunk noise. We can't really understand it. If you're using a USB microphone, can you just unplug it and
How
plug it?
about now?
Now it's good.
How about now?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. That's like the exact same thing that happened when I had that I did like the interview during Nation Wars, and like it just my whole voice was like that for no reason until I unplugged my mic. How'd you fix it?
Oh, well, I just changed the audio settings. It was just capturing from one of my webcams, and that one's kind of broken a little bit, so maybe that's why the sound was very strange.
Oh, no worries, man. All right, sweet. So GG's. That game was, one of those games. You're going a very mid-tier army. He kind of started rolling over. Off the top of your head, where do you think's kind of like the key moments where things started to not go your way? Do you think it was maybe losing those couple of Hydralisks out in the middle of the map?
That definitely hurts a lot, because with that kind of army, once your army is a little bit smaller than the Protoss army, it becomes really tough. So I must admit there was a little bit of a lag spike there, so I didn't really mean to be there anymore, but they had a little bit of a different mind there. And I feel like going Hydra speed before Lurker then was probably also a mistake, because he went so Stalker heavy. Against Stalker heavy armies, you kind of want to go Lurker before speed, I think.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of the time you can't really force an engagement against it as well, right? But if you've got lurkers, you can hold a position like super cost efficiently and just counter attack with a lot of units, right? So it gives you an opportunity to like maybe break down the side rocks on his natural and like send lings around the top right side of the map as well, and just kind of start to fight where he isn't. Or do you think you'd still be focused probably on attacking front on?
No. I definitely hold a little bit longer with the lurkers. Just hold them back, and then you can go for a pretty nice timing with like 180 supply. Just like 10 lurkers, hydras, lings, banelings. And especially on King's Station, it can be really hard for Protoss to hold their fourth and third base. You kind of you swing around the fourth. You don't try to go up the cliff, but you come from the low ground fourth basically.
Yeah.
And then your reinforcements like naturally would trickle into the like his fourth, so it's a little bit hard for Protoss to hold there.
Okay, cool. So I think there was a lot of downtime after your range finished as well before the lurker den started, but I definitely agree. In general, in that scenario, you should be going for the lurkers. Did you realize he was going for a stalker-based composition and it was just a bad decision, or did you lack the scouting?
I think I knew early enough. I could have scouted it a bit earlier, but I think that was the point where I maybe at least could have cancelled the speed and just go for lurker immediately.
Okay, cool. So considering we're going to be redoing it, the main thing is just not losing those hydras out on the map and trying to swap the timing around. Go straight for the lurker den when the hydra den finishes. So what sort of timing do you think that would be? Probably like 6 minutes 45, something like that. 7 minutes when your hydra den was finishing.
I think that sounds about right.
All right, I'll just do 6:45 then, and we will do that. So recovering game, loading on up. I've actually talked to some Protoss players, and I haven't played a lot of ZVP or watched a lot of ZVP on King Sejong yet. But a few Korean players were saying that it's very, very powerful for Protoss, and they're saying it's so impossible for Zerg to win there. But I've actually had trouble kind of thinking about that yet, just because I've got so little experience playing and watching on the map. But you said you actually enjoy King Sejong quite a bit, right?
Yeah, but the main thing about King Sejong is it's really scary early on, because first of all, adapts are pretty good. And second of all, there's this Plink Stalker sentry timing, like coming from your destructible rocks. So that kind of keeps you honest as a Zerg, because if you go too greedy, you can really easily die to that.
Yeah.
And so as long as I guess if you see that there's not so many sentries, you can still be kind of greedy, but it can be difficult in that sense.
Okay, awesome. That makes perfect sense. I mean, shit, we played a lot of Heart of the Swarm, getting Blink Stalkers coming up the back of our base, or Immortals knocking on our back rocks. Hey, so all right, 6 minutes 45. Oh, one more thing, and this was the exact same thing that happened last week with a laser versus Harstem, actually. Observer. Make sure you make an overseer with your army as well. So we're going to give you that little cheat code, because I feel like when Protoss can just see everything that's happening, rallying out of your hatcheries and running around the map, it just makes their life so much easier. So
No, that's absolutely true.
that's something which, yeah, should make a big difference. So, okay, 6 minutes 45. So this should load up from there. It'll take just a few seconds. All right, man. So good luck, have fun, and kick some ass.
All right, thanks.
Cheers, man. Okay, so we're just recovering the game now. It'll take a few seconds to get back in there. But I think that's some good insight from Dario there, especially with those units, you know, against the force fields and the stalkers. You know, he just couldn't really fight against that army very well. He couldn't defend positions very well without having lurkers up. And losing the hydras in the middle of the map was big as well. So changing those few things, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how does Puck adjust as well. Now that he doesn't just kill those hydras and then just kind of have the superior army, is Puck really going to struggle securing that fourth base? I do really feel like King Sejong's a map where if the Zerg gets momentum, it can suddenly become very difficult for Protoss because there's so many angles Zerg can attack from. So let's dive on into game. Let's see how this goes. Whenever you guys are ready. Good luck, have fun. Depending on how we're going for time, guys, I see questions in chat saying, will there be another restart if Puck loses now? I'd love to do that. It depends on how long we've been going and just kind of time constraints overall. I think we've been going quick enough that we'll definitely do one more restart. And we want to save a little bit of time for discussion at the end with both players talking about the matchup and talking about what went on. So that's going to be very important. So let's take a look. This time we've got that Lurker Den going down immediately. We've got an Overseer up here immediately. So yes, the creep got denied, but now the Observer's going to have to run away. And this is just going to make it a little bit harder for Puck to see absolutely everything that's going on. And look at this, really cute from TLO. Just right-clicks his Overseer onto that Observer. And look, drops the Adepts in the middle of the fight to keep picking off tumors. Puck is like one of these Protoss players who, with his Warp Prism, is just so annoying. It's like the bane of Zerg. Every time you play against a Puck Warp Prism, you're just like, go away. You're meant to leave, man. Get the hell out of here. But he never leaves. He just wants to be as annoying as possible. And look at this. Puck actually doing a very early push here to cover his fourth base. This is really clever. This is something MC used to abuse so much on this map. If you can get into this position with force fields, Zerg cannot push up that ramp. And, you know, it looks like Puck's like trying to kill and he's being scary, but he's not. Right now, he's getting Storm and a Disruptor Den behind this. He has no intention of winning the game here, but he's pushed in a little bit deep and his expensive units are getting surrounded. Those Immortals are starting to go down. The Zerglings are being worth their weight in gold right now. The Hydras and Lings closing in. This is a big loss for Puck. TLO starting to get on top of those valuable units, but there's still so many Stalkers. I mean, TLO, he needs to take advantage of this opportunity. He needs to kill everything. The Warp Prism is almost down. The Corruptor's killing it. The Hydras and Lings are continuing to push in. And I think Puck is overextended here. You know, I don't know, he loses the Warp Prism, but he's actually still trading okay. Even though he's only got Stalkers behind this, he's got a fourth base up. He's almost even in Workers. And value with those Blink Stalkers. You've got to keep in mind that TLO here didn't have that fast fourth base up. He didn't have like absolutely exceptional mining. And not just that, but he went for the Spire and Corruptors as well. So he was diversifying his tech. While Puck, even though he added all that tech as he was pushing out, up until that point, everything was focused on just getting Blink Stalkers, Sentries, and Immortals out. It was very focused on surviving and then also having that big, powerful army to go and counter push. And I think that made a really big difference there. And now he's got so much momentum behind him. We've got that second Robo on the way. We've got Storm actually finished, even though he hasn't even warped in any High Templar yet. So if Puck ever decides to swap back into a defensive focus, he's going to have just this splendid army. You know, one of the things as well is because we swapped the Lurker Den, and knowing Puck, he was watching the stream as well, so he probably heard us talking about that. The thing is, because the Hydras didn't have the range upgrade that time around, that actually affected their ability to engage during that early fight quite a lot. This Warp Prism gonna survive, and TLO is just taking massive losses here. He's killing some expensive units. Like each time a flood of Lings gets on top of these units, it's great. But just overall, he doesn't seem to have enough production. Yes, Puck's faltering, but look at Puck's money. Puck has so much money behind this. and TLO just barely managing to hang on to his 4th base. It feels like Puck is just keeping himself ahead right now. And TLO's got to find room to stabilize. He's got lurkers out now. He's getting his 2-1 upgrades. He's already got +2 melee on his Zerglings. So his upgrades are fantastic. He's invested so much in upgrades. And he also, you know, invested in the Corruptors and things like that. I think at this point he's lost those Corruptors. So a Warp Prism could be very annoying. Let's see. There's a new Warp Prism coming out just now. Puck going to continue to posture around the map. He's just so ballsy, even with a small army like this. But this can also be his downfall. He's got a bunch of, oh man, so many cannons there. And the Mothership Core is not too far away as well. If the Zerglings run in there, they're not going to be able to fight that. However, this army is exposed. But what does TLO have to actually fight it? Mostly Zerglings. If he can get the Hydras and Lurkers over here as well. Oh, he left 3 Lurkers burrowed at his 4th. He needs those in this fight. He can't engage this without those Lurkers up here, I don't think. He's going to go in, and this is a great fight, you know, positionally, compositionally. But I don't think he has the numbers to fully close it out. Oh, a big Stalker warping on the high ground. Those storms being well dodged by TLO. TLO's out here fighting on this map very well. The problem behind this is he's only at 63 drones versus 72 probes. If we look at the income tab, Puck here, very healthy, mining a lot more gas and roughly even minerals. We look at his bases. He needs to transfer workers from his natural. That's a mistake from Puck. Obviously, it's been a very fast-paced game. Otherwise, his mineral income would be even higher. And it looks like TLO is saying, okay, I've managed to push you back off the map. It's time to start multi-pronging. But Puck is going to catch a lurker out here for free. The disruptor shots are going to go down. And oh, man, huge disruptor shots coming out and hitting these units. These Zerglings need to surround. Okay, the Zerglings are going to go in. Lurkers and Hydras are coming in now. If Puck loses this whole army, then suddenly he is back to square one. But he just is so good at pulling back. If there's so long until these disruptor shots are cooled down, though, TLO has the pressure on. He needs to close in and get these expensive tech units. But those disruptor shots, they're recharging now, and he's got them back. And as TLO pushes into the choke points, those shots become more and more effective. More Stalkers warping in on the high ground to reinforce. These disruptor shots continuing to zone, and TLO actually just runs out of steam there. If we look at the units lost tab, TLO has lost about 2,500 more resources lost in terms of those units. And Puck has a 5th base up. TLO is starting to starve. He's on 62 drones. But compositionally, what do we have for Puck? Disruptors, he's got 5 disruptors. Okay, that's enough. Against lurkers, unless you have an absolute horde of lurkers, 5 or 6 disruptors should be able to zone you out pretty much forever. TLO is going to continue to try to use positioning to his advantage, but we see here some of his units being caught out in the middle, not quite able to deal with Puck's army. Those disruptor shots are just so effective against a pure lurkerling Hydra army, and he's even got cannons up at his 5th base, so it looks like Puck is just in a stranglehold right now on TLO. I really do think that early push and the fact that TLO was investing in too many things at once, so he took so much damage to the early push, was the main problem. TLO might also point out the fact that he let Puck get onto the high ground, but I really think that was fine. I think TLO was fine to let him push down into the low ground down here and then let everything go. Puck is going to lose his 5th, but he's got a huge army down here, and the 4th base is even more important. We've got an infestation pit, maybe thinking about going Hive to get Vipers and abduct the Disruptors, but with High Templar out, that's going to be a very finicky plan. And we see, okay, TLO says, look, I'm too far out of position, I gotta just fight you. So he's going to try and attack in, but there's so many cannons combined with Disruptors there. His army's trying to run around, and he's going to catch a few stray Disruptors, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Oh man, the Photon Cannon Disruptor defense is just too good. TLO's losing way too many units. Doesn't have enough stuff. And Puck is going to hang on there. Alright, GG's. So we got some good questions coming out in chat, guys. We'll sort those out towards the end of the session. For now, I think we'll just get Dario back on the call. We'll do one. Hey, how you going, man?
Well, still pretty tough.
Yep. So, I mean, he pushed in and did a lot of damage with that first push. So let me just give my analysis while you're kind of absorbing and thinking back on everything that went on that game. And something I was pointing out and kind of noticed. Sorry, my headphones have just fallen out. Was that you were investing in a lot of different things, right? Because you were going double upgrades and Spire and the Lurker Den all at once, and then building the couple of Corruptors very early. I felt like you were kind of planning for the next stage, and I feel like something that's quite common in most of Puck's styles, but especially as PvZ, is he like doesn't really plan for the next stage until a little bit later. He really invests in like being able to hit a very hard timing, and then only as he's moving across with that timing does he start investing in the disruptor tech, the storm tech, and all that other stuff. So I felt like he just hit this like sweet spot where he just barely had enough units. Like at first I thought him pushing in so deep was suicide. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I mean, you got all his sentries and immortals, but you just didn't quite, like if you had like another 20 Zerglings or like another 5 Hydralisks or something, probably Zerglings because your Hydra upgrade wasn't quite done at that point, I think.
No.
And that was obviously pretty big as well. But I think if you had a few more Zerglings, like that fight could have just suddenly completely turned in your favor once he was down to pure Stalkers. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think maybe you could kind of tone back some of that investment and get a few more units out?
Well, I'm a bit on the fence about the Spire. Maybe I should just get a bit later. Like, basically, the Spire, I need the Corruptors done when I start doing things on the map. So I got them a little bit too early. It's just so annoying not getting a Spire, in my opinion, at some point, because a War Prism can just do whatever the hell it wants at any point in the game if you don't have a Spire. But it's kind of expensive. Kind of wish Spire should be 150, 150. But yeah, the Spire was probably overkill in that situation. Just need to get it probably a couple minutes later, if at all. Maybe it's just better to just keep a few units home. But we've all died to those 10 adept weapons while we were thinking we're winning games. Like we're killing the 4th, like we're doing okay in the front, and then there's like 10 adepts just killing 2 eco lines at the same time.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to start incorporating a Spire at some point.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a timing matter, right? Like it's definitely not to do with like, oh, just never build a Spire to deal with Warp Prism, because otherwise you're gonna have to leave so many units at home. Like if you think about it technically, the Warp Prism can always hop from like the main, you've got 5 Hydralisks in your main, the Warp Prism sees them, pulls back. And when you're microing out on the map, it's always going to find an angle to come in and warp 10 adepts in, which will just destroy 5 or 6 Hydralisks like so easily. It'll destroy 20 Zerglings that you've left at home. So I think it makes perfect sense to get the Spire and the Corruptors out. I think probably just delaying it even just a minute would probably make a huge difference there, just because the cost of the Spire plus the 2 Corruptors. I think
it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes all the difference. I think them pushing in right, in that timing where you don't have the Hydra upgrade is always kind of hard, but just positionally, I think you dealt with it like really well, and it was almost perfect defense. I think if you just had a few more units, Puck gets punished super hard there. So I'd love to see us just replay from the same point and just not... Wait, had you started the Spire when we recovered that game?
I started, but I could cancel it.
How about I just start from 6 minutes 30 then? I'll go back just a few seconds earlier so you don't start it. Because I want to kind of go back and say, like, let's imagine our game plan was different. We said it's never safe to start Spire that early, especially if they're going kind of, Blink style. But just generally, like, we'll do that. So let me do recover game, and we'll do 6 minutes 30.
Okay, sure.
There are a few points where you got on the map there, and, like, there were so many points in that game where I felt like Puck was being very cavalier and kind of going out like so deep. And
oh yeah, I was pretty surprised actually, like how offensively he was at points, because he had a 4th up, so I thought he'd sit back a little bit, but
no, Puck goes for broke, man. He just keeps pushing, and that's the thing, right? There's so many points where it's like if you just had like an extra few units in each of those fights, like it could have turned so suddenly. Punished, yeah. Like especially with Blink Disruptor, if you surround that with well upgraded Zerglings and Hydralisks, it's like, oh man, things can change so quickly. So I think especially in ZVP, it's a matchup where the entire matchup changes based on a little momentum swing early on, and it can so quickly swap from one direction to the other. So anyway,
Oh yeah.
I'll stop blabbering and let this recover. So good luck, have fun, man, and kick some ass.
All right. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.